We just had an election. Does this sound familiar? And in the run-up to it, they're marching out. In the run-up to the election, each leader said that he was the voice you should listen to in these uncertain times. He'd be the best one to lead the country. Some Canadians listened to one leader, others to the other leader. Some time will tell whether the majority chose the right one. In the US, many people listen to a particular leader, and we'll know in time whether that was really a good choice or not. In today's gospel, Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me." Of course, I want to be one of those sheep. I want him to know me. I want for me to listen to him and follow him. But how do I recognize his voice among the cacophony of voices in my head and all around me? How do I know which is truly his? When we're worried or fearful about something, the gospel tells us we need to listen to our shepherd to guide us out of trouble, to lead us not into temptation, to deliver us from evil. I wonder if Jesus uses the metaphor of shepherd and sheep to remind us that he's always there, always with us, always protecting us. And if we genuinely listen, we'll recognize his voice and find our way home. But fear, I think, has a way of tying our stomachs in knots, paralyzing our thinking, making us lose sight of the fact that God does indeed love us and we are his children. Fear and its cousin worry can capture our hearts, I think, when we feel caught in the vortex of disasters, big or small, that are beyond our control. It can make us listen to the wrong voices in our heads, allowing us to be sent down dangerous and damaging rabbit holes. And it can maybe make us forget to rely on God's love, and instead try to fight our way through some difficulty or another without listening. Or perhaps by listening to a voice that's not the true shepherd and allow ourselves to be persuaded to make poor choices. Years ago, when I was a small boy, my family was sailing on the Chesapeake. For some unrecorded reason, we decided this time to take our cat, Napoleon, with us. This is one of those decisions that later marked off in the great book of decisions as not one of our best. One evening, we tied up at a dock for the night. Napoleon, who'd been cowering in the cabin all day, decided this was his chance to break for terra firma. He leapt over the rail of the boat onto the dock, scurried to the end, jumped down in the sand, and hid himself under the land end of the dock, refusing to come out, despite all of our coaxings and our urgings. I was small enough to get under the dock at the place where the dock and the sand came together. It was about a foot or two from where the tidewater was sloshing. But intending to be some kind of a hero, I decided I'd crawl on my belly under the wooden beams and get the cat. Halfway in, just out of the reach of the cat, I felt my shirt grab, and I realized I was hung up on a bent nail that hung down from the old timbers. It wouldn't have been a big deal, except that the tide was rising and had only a short way to get to me, and I panicked. I struggled and tore at my shirt and found that the harder I tried, the more I was caught. My parents were on either side of me trying to calm me down, but I knew the tide was rising, and in a few minutes, the brackish swells were actually slopping at my side. I was as scared as I'd ever been in my little life. The more I struggled, the more I panicked. It was too small a space for my parents to get to me, and I was sure I was going to drown. My big sister, being a big sister, was complaining, "You're such a goof. Now not just the cat's lost, you're lost." Big sisters are such a help. But then my mom, lying on her tummy, reached under as far as she could, and her fingers were just far enough that she could touch my hand and hold my hand. I couldn't see her, but I reached back and I touched her, and she held my hand. And instead of yanking, as I thought she was going to, she just held my hand. She spoke softly and said, "Don't worry, Mommy's here." Her touch and soft voice stopped me. It calmed me down. I relaxed a little and stopped struggling, and with her guidance, somehow got free of that crooked nail in my shirt. I crawled out from under the dock, wet and shaking, and curled up in my mom's arms. My mom's touch and her calming words had allowed me to let go of the fear that had gripped me. They let me feel hope just at a time when I most needed to feel hope. I'd heard her voice and felt her reach for me, and I'd responded. I think fear and worry can grab us, maybe choke the faith right out of our hearts. It can lead us into very dark places. It can cause us to thrash and struggle when calmness is needed. It can make us forget to listen to God's voice, His leading. Many times we thrash and struggle, not just in a physical way, but in an emotional or spiritual way. We strike back at imagined slights. We worry ourselves to death. We even attack ourselves. I'm so stupid. I never do it right. I'm a terrible Christian. I can't remember that verse. Whatever unhelpful self-evaluation we might come up with. Today, I suppose we have much to be fearful about in the world. Not just international wars and violence, but also the hunger of our neighbors, perhaps our own health issues as we age. And for most of us, we look into our hearts, something less obvious, like the fear of not being loved, or the fear of being left out, or the fear of change. One friend of mine even says that when things are going well, she can't help but worry that the good times will end. There's so many things of which we can find ourselves fearful, and fear can be so debilitating. But I think that for all the ways that fear and worry can imprison us, when we stop thrashing and actually listen to our shepherd's voice, we can take a deep breath, and with his leading, find a way to get free of that bent nail that's been snagging our shirts. Stop the worry that's crushing us, and find peace in a troubled world. In our reading from Revelation today, we hear of the great multitude of witnesses, the heavenly choir, the angels worshiping God. I sometimes wonder if when we really listen to God's voice, we can also hear this great voice of witnesses. Moses heard God speaking to him from a burning bush. Job heard God speak to him from a whirlwind. In Acts, we hear that Peter heard God speak to him through the girl Tabitha. Although my wife Sarah had never met my mother, who died many years before, Sarah's told me that she's heard my mom speaking to her and helping her find a way past something that she's been struggling with. So how do we know we're actually listening to Jesus, our shepherd? What does God's voice sound like? When we're struggling, when we're worrying, when we're fearful, I think if we listen, if we truly listen, we will recognize the voice of love. It may come in a whirlwind, maybe even a gentle breeze. It may come from a burning bush, but I kind of doubt that's likely. It may come from the voice of someone you trust, or it may come from deep within your heart. But if you genuinely listen, I think you'll know the voice of the shepherd. I've mentioned before something about praying that a dear friend of mine offered me years ago. Instead of thinking of praying as a way to tell God something, yo, God, got something for you. Imagine yourself instead as a young child stepping into a circle of adults who are already talking. Look up and listen. Listen to their voices before you speak. Let the ongoing eternal conversation of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit surround you. Listen to them. I think if you begin a prayer that way, you will recognize the heavenly conversation that's always going on. You might learn something from it. Listening, I think, is the key. I think the gospel today reminds us of that. I wonder if this week you might find yourself worrying or struggling with life's challenges, big or small, whatever they are for you. I wonder if you might find a quiet place in your day to stop and simply listen to the heavenly conversation. Listen for the voice of the Good Shepherd whispering to you. And once you've heard him, if you follow him, I truly believe you'll stop struggling so you can get on with your way all the way back home. That's my prayer for each of you. For me, that long day ago, back under the dock, God's voice came to me through my mom. Maybe on this Mother's Day, that's kind of appropriate. So maybe the moral of the sermon really is, if you can't hear God's voice, listen to your mother.